Thank you very much. Yeah, excited to actually unpack this one today. Overall, I mean, we kick things off. We have an upset now. We go all the way to Game 5 in our second series of these playoffs. And, you know, there were a lot of big things that we talked about before we even jumped into this series. One of the big ones, of course, was LG's S&D. That was something that you wanted to talk about. Definitely came in big here.
Yeah, and the story for them in Birmingham was they turned their worst map into their best maps. They win the event here. They played Texas. It was a map they banned a lot in the past, and they played against Red Reserve of all teams, and that was their best map. So they take their worst map, turn it into maybe not their best, but one that gets the job done in the end.
Before we get carried away, though, we do have to say, look, Red, they came out so strong in those first two maps. Even Jess down on the floor saying, look, you got steamrolled in the first two maps.
Yeah, I mean, if you're Red Reserve, you're just looking at game number 3. That's the big one. You did your job. You win those first two games, and we always talk about teams like Optic, like Luminosity, even teams like Rise Nation. If you go up 2-0, put those teams away, win that game number 3, because as soon as that momentum shifts, you saw what happened in game 4, then you get to a game 5, and at that point, it's like a 50-50. So if you're Red Reserve, you just look at that game number 3. You were up, you had a couple of flag lead, and then Luminosity just turned it around.
And that is definitely the map that we want to be talking about the most. We got to be looking at that CTF. That is where the entire series started to swing around. What was LG able to do here, Chance?
Amazing recognition. We've seen Joe sneak time and time again. You see him coming around back cabin and doesn't notice JCap. So the timing works out, but at a certain point, you hear JCap is going to get a call from his teammate. As soon as that player spawns, it's a half second later. JCap instantly turns around, sniffs out Joe and gets that kill, but that's been a huge reason that Red Reserve has been successful. Joe sneaks when he needs to. They make those amazing plays. They pull off something magical. JCap and TTF, he had absolutely none of it. Again, like as soon as that player spawns in, whips right around, finds them. It was picture perfect.
Yeah, I mean, they're in a listening. We're in a listening. We're hearing the comms, and John just says, hey, I spawned broken, right? You have a player at cabin. That was Octane. He pushed up. JCap just turns around. Even if Joe's behind the tank, JCap probably doesn't go all the way around. He probably just sees nobody there. He may look for him, but even just the fact that JCap sees him as soon as he turns around, it just really changed everything. Because if Joe gets in that spot, a couple of kills go Red Reserve's way, that game completely changes.
Then we get to map 4 and we see, okay, LG heats up there in a huge way.
Just a little bit.
We can turn our attention though to the S&D, and the thing is, this map 5, one of the big questions I have as we're actually going to watch this last round goes all the way to round 11 is just picking this map by LG, Chance. What did you actually think of this pick going into this Red Reserve for the year on this map, 10-1?
It's a bold pick, but you got to be aware of strategy. And Josh, how many times have we seen him do this year where he gets sneaky, puts on the silencer? We've seen this before as well, and sits in that corner. It wasn't even the first time he's done that this game. He did that in, I think, the opening round of the game. LG, they pre-fire when the smokes come through. They sniff them out. They get the nades on site, but it comes to now that preparation. Are they going to be aware of what Red Reserve does? They absolutely were. Granted, that round 11 is going to be terrifying either way, but I think it really did come down to preparation and strategy.
Yeah, plus the fact that they were up 5-3, right? And we go to a round 11. That round where they were up 5-3, they had a 3 versus 2, and there was just that timing where Zero pushes by JCap. JCap doesn't see him. He gets behind him, forces that 1 versus 1 where Octane's able to win it. If you're LG and you have that 3v2 advantage going into that round, you ended up losing that match. That's the round that you have to focus on. So that was a great job by Luminosity. As you said, to find Josh, again, how many times do we always talk about Red Reserve and how sneaky they play that map, especially those 3 submachine gun players. So to just notice that they love that corner, John's able to find them. That's a huge one for LG.
Yeah, I mean, the big thing is you talk about preparation, right? Obviously, preparation had to come into play if they're going to pick that map. Even without preparation, you know, look, Red is just going to be nasty, and they decide to have that as their Game 5 matchup. But let's look at the bracket now, because the impact is going to be very, very obvious here. As you can see, E United versus Luminosity are going to be the first 2 teams to make it to Winners 2. But now we also have a pretty solid idea of what the lower bracket's going to look like, and it's Rise Nation and Red Reserve. I mean, absolutely insane already. It's looking very scary in the lower portion of the bracket, but we're